If you'd like to see this series continue, where we can cover Angry Birds Go and Angry Birds Epic, then please consider checking out the Stinky Steve plushie from the link in the description. If we reach 100 sales, I'd be happy to keep ranking more games. Thank you so much. Sort of a long time ago, in a galaxy not that far away, Angry Birds had just released Angry Birds Space, and we're wondering what could possibly top that concept. Where could the Slingshot series even go from here? Now that we've gone to space, how can we take this even further? And that's when the greatest opportunity for the most popular mobile game series at the time came to be. Quite possibly the biggest crossover in mobile game history. This is the story of Angry Birds Star Wars. I know it's been a while, but welcome back. Thank you all for being here. Happy May the 4th, and without further ado, let's get into the history of Angry Birds Star Wars and how this massive crossover came to be. Well, like I said, Rovio released Space and thought to themselves, what's next? They wanted a natural evolution of Angry Birds Space, just as that game had been an evolution from the original game. Since their collaboration with Fox for Angry Birds Rio worked so well, they started looking into sci-fi franchises to work with next. In an interview with Rovio's vice president, he said, all these sci-fi properties were under discussion, but what's bigger than Star Wars in that domain? They went to Lucasfilms, who took one look at how insanely popular Angry Birds was, and made a pretty wise decision. Apparently, it was not solely in the hands of Rovio to work on things. A lot of the designs were worked on together by both companies. Just think about what they had their hands on here. Star Wars, the most well-known sci-fi franchise of all time, Angry Birds, the most popular series on the App Store at this time, and when both were combined, what do you get? A cool game, sure, but that's not what the two companies were thinking about. Angry Birds was a fun game, but they made their real money from that merch, man. That juicy, overpriced, unstoppable force of toys, t-shirts, plushies, and posters. I remember all my school supplies around this time were all Angry Birds Star Wars, dude. Two greedy companies were just drooling over the thought of this stuff, and just you wait until Hasbro gets involved. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's jump right into the first game. It's exactly what I think you'd expect from a game like this. It's an Angry Birds game at its core, but using the environments, characters, and story of Star Wars. And arguably, in my opinion, the character mashups were by far the most exciting part. Red and Luke are each the main characters of their respective series, so of course they put them together. Han Solo is a bit cocky and beats Greedo in a shootout. How can he not be Chuck? Terrence was made to cosplay Chewbacca. Stella is sort of the main female character, so it makes sense for her to be Stella, and then the other characters sort of just fell into place after that. I don't know if Bomb is really that similar to Obi-Wan. They didn't give the Blues names, they're just generic pilots, and while Matilda could have been anyone, her C-3PO design is so perfect, it's kind of crazy just how well that worked out. And make an egg R2-D2, why not? The characters were given so much of a spotlight in the trailers leading up to the game's release, with these wonderfully animated little segments, and that's because Rovio knew it was the greatest aspect of this crossover. The game follows the story of the original 3 movies, so of course we start with A New Hope with our opening cinematic of Leia leaving a message to R2-D2, with the 2 droids being picked up on Tatooine by Luke as our first bird. I love how he starts the game with no power, but you will eventually unlock his lightsaber attack. All the characters actually get upgraded throughout the course of the game, which we've never really seen in an Angry Birds game before. It kinda ruins the earlier levels though, making them extremely easy to revisit after upgrading everyone. Usually the Red Bird is the weakest in the game, but thanks to the lightsaber he easily becomes so much more helpful. The pigs on Tatooine are Tusken Raiders, which is a fun idea too. Just look at the backgrounds, man, such a gorgeous game. I love getting to new areas just to see the new art. A few levels in, Red is saved by our mysterious new bird, Obi-Wan. He uses the Force, pushing objects in the direction you choose. It can feel pretty random at times, but how can you hate the Force as an ability? This is awesome! I really love the earliest Tatooine levels, and how they aren't yet incorporating the gravity mechanics from Angry Birds Space. So far, this is just yet another classic slingshot game. With just 2 birds, no levels are too complex, they're just tried and true Angry Birds fun. Then, about halfway through the world, we get Han Solo next. A lot of characters are eventually going to get a similar weapon, but for the time being, Han Solo had a brand new blaster. This weapon changes the game so drastically. You can shoot anywhere. A pig can be completely unreachable, but thanks to Chuck, you can just put a laser bullet through his head at any point in time. Not to mention the ability to ricochet on metal objects, creating even more insane level concepts that are unlike anything the series has ever seen. Chuck's ability changes this game so drastically, and I'll never get over that. The pigs can have blasters too, which might hit you, but if you can make the blaster move, it can help you destroy the level. We finally launch into space and become reacquainted with the gravity mechanics once more. Now there's a ring around each planet pulling you towards the center, but if you go outside that field, your trajectory is completely straight. Mixing this with the force powers especially makes for some very cool level concepts. I think it's really awesome to have a mix of both the standard levels and the space levels in this game. It makes for such a fun experience that's constantly keeping you on your toes. The pigs in these areas are stormtroopers, the most classic and iconic pigs from these games, I'd say. The final boss of this set of levels is a little TIE fighter, which isn't anything crazy, but a nice end to Tatooine. We might as well cover the golden egg levels too, simply titled bonus here. Now, I've already collected them all, so I don't have footage of finding any, but if you played an Angry Birds game before, it works just like any other example. When you find a golden egg in a level and hit it, or collect enough stars to reach the next milestone, you unlock a bonus stage, exclusively featuring our next two birds, C-3PO and R2-D2. They aren't in the normal levels, you can only play as them here. Let's start with C-3PO, who features the ability to fall apart. You just combust on activation. The idea is that these pieces can spread and hit multiple targets, but in execution, this made the most frustrating power I've faced in the series so far. The pieces are simply unreliable, and so weak sometimes they won't even destroy anything. R2-D2 on the other hand is much more fun to use. He gets electricity that shocks all nearby pigs. This creates little lines of electricity that can break objects between them. It's pretty good and much more reliable without a doubt. I'm not going to be covering these stages in too much detail, they're alright, but kind of frustrating to 3-star. A lot of them are more puzzle oriented though, so it's more about figuring out an intended solution in most cases. That's right, Stinky Steve is finally real, and despite the name, I promise the plush doesn't actually smell. My goal was to make him feel right at home alongside the rest of your collection at a nice 5-inch scale. He'll be the same height next to my Chuck or Matilda, or he can be a cute little baby next to a big ol' red. I love him so much, I couldn't be happier with the final product. Even the hair, which seemed like it'd be difficult to translate into a physical object, is better than I initially imagined. He's soft, he's cute, and he can be yours too. Check the link in the description to get one for yourself. We need 100 sales to make it happen, so if you pledge and we don't reach the goal, don't worry, you'll get your money back. If we reach the goal, I will happily continue this series of videos, so don't wait. Just checking the price compared to the other YouTuber plushies, I hope you can see the sacrifice and profit I'll personally be making from this thing, just to make it more available to all of you. So get your own Stinky Steve plushie before he's gone forever. Thank you for all your support to make this possible in the first place. The ending cutscene of Tatooine shows the flock flying towards the one and only Death Star. And right away we have our first new bird, the Blue Squadron, who have the exact same power the Blues always have because of course they do. However, later in the game you unlock an upgrade that gives them a secondary power, a little explosion. This makes them great for more than just glass blocks now, it's pretty cool. Still, just starting out, it's very boring to just have the Blues here. We're not even at the Death Star yet, we're just in space near the Death Star. What's fun is, over the course of these levels, we slowly get closer and closer to it, as seen by the background changes. I never noticed that before, but it's a fun attention to detail. Once we finally enter the Death Star, we celebrate the occasion by letting Chewbacca join the fight. He's easily my favorite new character from this game. His design is perfection, and Terrence being the big boy he is will always be fun. I know I just complained about the same thing for the Blues, but come on, it's Terrence! His eventually upgrade just makes him even chonkier, sending the objects he collides into flying further than before. The screen shakes with each impact, he's a real beast. The enemies in this area are Imperial officers, with the Grand Moff Tarkin himself making an appearance. There's pretty much a consistent stream of lasers in all of these levels too. There's even a trash compactor level, how cool is that? The level designs in general feel so different, it's kinda hard to explain. This game just feels so unique from the other games despite really being more of the same. Around halfway through the world we come face to face with the coolest pig there is, Darth Vader himself. He uses the Force to hold objects, and once he dies the objects will fall. Such a fun level. He and Obi-Wan have their iconic face-off, and in the movies we know Obi-Wan dies here, but in the games it's sort of just ignored. They obviously couldn't just take Bomb out of the list of playable characters, but I would have liked them to make him a Force ghost from this point on or something. The last 10 levels are back out in space as we escape the Death Star, and none of these are particularly special until the finale, where we fight our first real boss. These levels are some of my favorites in the game, and it usually involves taking out a few waves of enemies, in this case the TIE fighters, until Darth Vader flies in. We take him out, shoot some pink lasers into the Death Star, and make our escape with an epic explosion behind us. These were the first 2 level packs when the game launched, with an additional DLC pack, Path of the Jedi. You can either buy it outright or unlock it by getting 3 stars in every level, which is my plan. So it's not available yet, we'll revisit it at the end. In the next update, we'd start the story of the next movie, The Empire Strikes Back, on Hoth. This is one of my favorite cutscenes in the game, watching the attack on Hoth, revealing our next playable character at the end. Princess Leia is up next, with maybe one of the strangest abilities I've ever seen. She gets a pink tractor beam that pulls objects towards her. It's really fun for toppling towers, and it's so unique that of course there are a ton of fun new levels at the start of this chapter. There's snow covering the ground, icy areas of the level to slip and slide around, and even new pigs like the Snow Trooper and the freaky flying droids. Hoth is known for the AT-ATs, which are just perfect for Angry Birds. Topping these guys with flimsy little legs, it's the perfect level concept for this crossover. After a bit, we travel to space, which doesn't make a ton of sense if we're following the story of the movies, but it is sort of necessary for the mechanics of this game. We need AT-ATs in space! Here at the halfway point, we fight a big ol' Star Destroyer. It's pretty sturdy, but even a little nudge can kill a lot of the pigs here. After this, the levels are themed around an asteroid field, which again, barely happened in the movie, but just give it a second. The big asteroid chunks are fun to push around, I can't complain. Once we fly inside of what we assume to be an asteroid, it's time for the Mynock pigs. This is such a strange part of the game, and it's so weird for the pigs to basically become bats for like 12 levels. They are pretty unique though, hanging from ceilings and hovering in the air. These levels are fun, I'll give you that. And they even got to invent a brand new character as the final boss, the Fat Mynock. Maybe the best character in the franchise, he's truly the best. The fight is almost identical to the last one, but still very fun. We fly out of the giant Alaskan bull pig as we wrap up the Hoth stages. That means next up has to be none other than Cloud City. But wait, I hear you saying, we're out of the main Star Wars characters, who are we gonna play as now? Well, don't you worry, because Chuck has a quirky little idea up his sleeve. He can play Han Solo and Lando Calrissian. I feel like Chuck deserves to get cancelled for doing blackface and pretending like it's no big deal, especially because he also just has a slightly different blaster, so making this a separate character is completely pointless, but let's just try and enjoy Cloud City, shall we? Lando isn't even playable until the second half anyways. We're up in the sky through this first set of levels, with these massive fans that add wind mechanics to the game. They can push you in whatever direction they're facing, and it's a really fun idea that should be in every Angry Birds game from this point onwards. I love the movable ones later on you can just use to send structures and piggies flying. Level 36 is particularly satisfying. Anyways, before all that, there's some levels featuring Boba Fett. He's a pretty fun enemy to deal with because if anything even lightly taps him, his jetpack activates and he decimates everything in his path before dying. These levels are so fun, we got some bonus Boba Fett missions too, but we'll get to that in a second. There's a little mini Darth Vader fight before my second favorite cutscene in the game, Han Solo being frozen in carbonite. And from there we finally get to the Lando levels we covered earlier. The final section has some pretty tough levels honestly, they're my least favorite in Cloud City, including the finale against Darth Vader himself. It's just so hard to reach him, but once his lightsaber's gone, Stella can just grab him once and end the fight. Here's where Luke receives some devastating news, and we complete The Empire Strikes Back. Like I said, there was a little bonus chapter of Boba Fett missions unlocked by finding hidden jetpacks throughout the game, which are fun but really don't deserve more explanation than that. They are literally just more of the exact same stuff. If we were to believe the rumors I've heard, Jabba's palace was originally going to be an entire level pack, or at least one half of the first chapter here, but instead it got entirely reduced into a singular cutscene. It's a legendary cutscene, I won't lie, it's my favorite because, I love you Slave Leia, but I would have absolutely loved a Jabba's palace chapter. Instead, Return of the Jedi starts with the moon of Endor, and from here on out there are no new characters. Lots of fun jungle theme mechanics though, with these logs and vines and giant AT-STs everywhere, and who can forget the bouncy drums? I like the theme, it's just a long segment of levels for such a minimal part of the story. The cutscenes don't really add much to the section either, this has nothing to do with the final showdown we're about to witness, which is of course the Death Star 2! I love the design of the chapter image, but I hate its big smiley face in the cutscenes. Also, Nien Nunb is just here now, he just exists. This is the chapter I have 3-starred the least in before now, and it's clear to see why. Pretty much every level requires some lucky laser bounces. Look at this, every level! This isn't even fun anymore, it's just annoying. Even the final space level is a massive ship. I can barely even see my birds at this size. And with one random laser, I pretty much blew up the entire piggy army. I'm determined to get 3 stars on all these, but it's just going to take a lot of luck, and that's really frustrating. The levels inside the Death Star are much more enjoyable. They brought back the fans, but they look like they're using the Force or some sort of cosmic energy. It's strange, but I'm just happy they're back. Then it's time for the final showdown, Luke versus Darth Vader. These levels are easily the best in the chapter. The mechanics of Darth Vader's Force powers are just fun. Additionally, they're super easy to 3-star, but it's a very short little group of 4 levels, so enjoy it while it lasts. Luke defeats Vader, but he's not done. It's time for the final showdown, the Emperor. I love this fight. You just throw little blocks at him until he's out of lightning, then go for the kill. Once he's beat, you even get to launch Darth Vader himself for that final hit. The Emperor is defeated, and just before Vader dies, Luke goes to remove his helmet and take one last look at his father. If you didn't cry at this part as a kid, you aren't human! The Death Star 2 explodes, so we return to the moon of Endor for one last celebration. This is the end, but just wait. As this is the final chapter, I have officially 3-starred every level and unlocked Path of the Jedi for the first time. I can't wait to see what these levels have in store. These levels take place in Episode 5 when Luke meets Yoda Bird. We only see the back of his head in the initial cutscene sadly, but he does just kind of sit and watch you play each level. The pigs in these stages are voodoo pigs, even featuring a voodoo Darth Vader, or as I like to call him, Darth Vooder. Finally, we get the chance to play a ton of levels with his Force mechanics. That is literally what I've been waiting for. This is a huge chapter though, so it's going to take a while to get through. The first 7 levels only feature Luke, so after a while I was like, wait a second, when did Han Solo get here? In the second and third section, it's all space levels. We're going to be recapping my thoughts on the game after this chapter, but I might as well say it now. I don't necessarily hate every space level, but I certainly prefer the normal ones. That should be pretty obvious seeing as I put Angry Birds Space in A tier. They're still good, but lead to way more frustration, I feel. Anyways, the last 10 levels bring us back to the good old days, and I've played this Tarzan pig level so many times because I wanted that cool shot in my cool video. The last level is extremely lackluster though. There's nothing special here, and Obi-Wan is the main character, not Luke. Makes no sense, especially considering once we win, we get a cool shot of Yoda and Luke in his last upgraded form, a black outfit with a stronger green lightsaber. It's kind of for bragging rights at this point, since we just 3-starred the entire game and don't really have a reason to revisit anything. The only thing we haven't covered are power-ups, and since this video is so long as it is, let's just try the mighty Millennium Falcon. It's a bit frustrating to use. It'll shoot lasers wherever you activate it and has no guarantee to even kill all the pigs. I do not like it, and some stages feel impossible to 100%. Well, that's the whole game, so let's talk about it. The feeling of this game is unlike the rest of the series. It just oozes with the Star Wars style. From the screen transitions to the soundtrack and especially the beautiful backgrounds, this game is a love letter to Star Wars fans and Angry Birds fans through and through. I've told this story in the past, but I had never watched Star Wars before this game came out. I fell in love with it and watched all the movies one after the other. If Rovio and Lucasfilm's goal was to get Angry Birds fans interested in Star Wars, or vice versa, I can say from personal experience that legitimately worked. Let me know in the comments if you can relate. I don't know what else to say. This is honestly just Angry Birds firing on all cylinders, man. Fun level designs, fun new characters and abilities, classic slingshot action, and space levels in one package. The worlds in this game are developed really well, with each movie receiving 2 chapters each, and some nice bonus levels just for the heck of it. Getting 3 stars doesn't feel impossible, because I can say from experience, it was pretty manageable, and even the boss fights help each section feel like an event. As one of my personal favorite games in the franchise, it would feel wrong to put it anywhere other than S tier. Now, if it bugs you that all these games are in S, just let me explain. I don't know how long I'll be continuing this series. This video and my Stinky Steve plush sales will determine that, but I can only think of one more game in Angry Birds history I would put in S tier after this point. Plenty of A's, B's, C's, and tons of F's, but from this point on it will be much more of a gamble as to where the games will end up. And that includes the next game in the series, Angry Birds Star Wars 2. But first, I went out of my way to buy the console version of Angry Birds Space for my 3DS. It was on Wii and 3DS and PlayStation Vita and all the other consoles too, and if you'd like to hear more about this general experience of playing this game, it is extremely similar to Angry Birds Trilogy, so either you've seen the video I made on it and are familiar, or you should go check that video out too. The box proudly proclaims there are exclusive levels, so that's the main thing I'm going to check out. When you boot up the game, there's some weird little animations, and then it's just as you'd expect. Except you can play multiplayer if you want. It's not that different. You could do this without a mode for it, because you get the same amount of birds, you just swap back and forth between players, and it keeps track of your score. You can do co-op or versus, which is cool, and I like the idea. I've never seen an Angry Birds game do that before. You might immediately notice the chapters only go past Cloud City. The final 2 worlds from Return of the Jedi aren't even here. That's insane! But would you look at that, what a creative title. From the looks of it, you get some bonus levels from each theme, starting with Tatooine. These are not worth paying for a console version, I assure you, but it's a nice bonus, I suppose. I like the way the camera works here. The bottom screen follows your bird at all times, while the top screen stays zoomed out. When using the joystick only, the new abilities are really tough to control. Trying to aim Chuck's blaster before he hits something is really stressful. 3DS has a touchscreen at least, and on Wii you could use motion controls, but with just a controller this seems really difficult to maintain. So less content, worse controls, and it was expensive. Depending on the console you played on, like Wii U for example, it would cost $50. There is no world where this game is worth $50, I'm sorry, it's just not. Seeing we ranked Angry Birds Trilogy, it's only fair we rank this as well, and I'm sorry to say, I'm thinking C tier. If the full game were here, I'd be willing to give it a B, but not having all the content is inexcusable. With the success of the first game and only half the movies covered, it only made sense to make a sequel about the prequels. For people who didn't know Star Wars, this had to make no sense at all. But what would be changed to warrant a new game rather than more updates? Well, the sequel is pretty different. Once again, this feels unlike any other Angry Birds game I've ever played. The focus is more on characters than ever before, to the point where you are very constantly unlocking new ones in each chapter. And since there are so many rebels to cover, and the villains are so iconic, the pork side is playable now too. This is a huge deal, the first Angry Birds Slingshot game to make entire levels and chapters just for the pigs. That meant that each chapter was split in half now, and one side would be playable with just the birds telling their story, while the other featured the pigs and what they're up to. This concept alone is enough to warrant a sequel, I think. The characters sort of become their own problem though. Many of them are premiums only. You have to pay to play as them, so they act as power-ups in a way. You can choose whichever bird or pig you want in any level. That's a ton of freedom, but also makes things a little pay to win. It sort of removes the puzzle aspect of Angry Birds we know and love. It makes characters a currency and a limited resource. And that's the big problem I have with the system. On paper it's really cool, but in execution it feels a bit uncomfortable to me. But it is a unique feature we'd never see again, and I do love the characters of Angry Birds Star Wars, so it's cool to get so many. Not only was this a partnership between Rovio and Lucasfilms anymore, there was a new addition here, Hasbro. For the next few games in the series, we'd see toys-to-life figures known as Telepods invade each Angry Birds game. Now, I love Telepods because I loved Angry Birds, and I had quite the collection of characters here. You could scan them into the game to play as that character whenever you wanted. You own them now. But that requires spending quite a bit of money on these little hunks of silicon or something, and considering this is a mobile game that Rovio eventually deleted from the App Store, once again I feel pretty uncomfortable about it. I don't have this game on my phone, so I can't even use my Telepods. I've been scammed. Anyways, let's start digging into the gameplay here. We'll start with the birds in the first chapter, Naboo Invasion. Since there's only 20 levels per section, the game feels like it's going at breakneck speeds, so just be prepared for a very hectic and fast-paced recap of each chapter. The first movie was spread out between 3 of them though, so we do get a lot more in-depth here. We're introduced to Qui-Gon Jinn and young Obi-Wan to start, which mirrors the beginning of the first game, since Luke and Qui-Gon both just swing their lightsabers. And Obi-Wan, of course, still uses the Force. I love the environment of Naboo, and right away these catapults become the main new mechanic throughout these levels. There's even some water here and there. These are very diverse levels. Soon after, Yoda Bird becomes playable for the very first time. He's known for a spin move, bouncing around the stage while swinging his lightsaber at everything he bumps into. It is so random that you can pretty much just launch it wherever you want. You'll either get extremely lucky or just completely waste a bird on every single shot. It is one of the most frustrating powers in any Angry Birds game, I think. If you find a hidden map inside the levels, you can unlock little bonuses featuring C-3PO and R2-D2. They're not stuck in space anymore, they're here with us. I'm not going to cover their bonus levels ever again, but just know they appear in every chapter. The final boss is against this big ship on the way to run over our friends, but if we can destroy it in time, we can rescue them. We all hop on our ship and blast off. Meanwhile, the Emperor and Jango Fett are on their own mission. Jango Fett is up first, and he fires a rocket at the direction you choose. He launches in the opposite direction when activated, which is super important for using him to his full potential. The Emperor is much more straightforward, just shooting some lightning. but it can be conducted through metal. The Pigs chapter is like really focused on metal stuff, with the majority of levels featuring giant cartoonish magnets that pull on objects and certain characters. Like the Droideka. I hate this stupid thing. It combines the power of Yoda and C-3PO, and it's the only droid in the bonus levels. It's truly the worst. Once we enter space, we get a battle droid on our team, who has the power of Han Solo from the first game. These space levels are really unfun for me. And then we reach the boss, this generic bird general. Pretty boring stuff. Like I said, the pacing on this video is going to be crazy because that's how this game throws all of its ideas at you. Well, next up is Escape to Tatooine. And who gets to start things off? Misa Jar Jar, that's who! It's one of my favorite abilities of all time because a grappling hook is awesome as is, but he uses his tongue. It has so many uses too, launching further, grabbing objects and throwing them, even swinging in circles. Jar Jar is unironically the best character in this goddamn game, dude. He can nearly beat the entirety of the final boss, this little pod racing scene, on his own. Not long after, we meet Anakin, specifically the young one, who uses his pod racer to speed around the stage. This thing is nuts, you can just click wherever you want to go and it'll go there. Anakin will also hit anything he touches on the way without interrupting it. If it wasn't already obvious, I love the Tatooine levels. The characters are really fun and the level design makes me want to actually get 3 stars and everything. They just don't feel as random as the stupid pig levels. Now, don't get me wrong, I really like the 2 new pigs. Darth Maul just has his lightsaber, but it's much stronger with that double hilt. Count Dooku gets the boomerang blade, launching so far in the distance and wiping out everything in that arc. Super useful. The problem is all these others rely on pure luck. This stupid new floating platform does crazy damage, but the way it flies is so hard to control it almost never does what you want it to do. Some levels are just filled with them, even the final boss. Not every level sucks, but trying to get 3 stars here is extremely unfun for me. Now we are back to Naboo, and Padme is ready to throw down. She has the opposite power of Leia, pushing with her beam rather than pulling. I like that, and it makes sense for both these stellar characters to have these abilities. Next up is Captain Panaka, who's pretty similar to Lando with his triple shots. I love the different Star Wars ships we have to deal with here, despite each of them being nowhere near as strong as some random trees. The final boss of this one is really hard. I played it over and over here and only won after using an extra bird. But your ship gets to shoot some lasers right in there and blow up the whole base, and Boss Nass, who's got a lot of sass and sucks my ass, is here to celebrate too. And for the pork side, water levels. How dare they? I struggle just trying to get footage here. I don't get these levels, man, they don't make sense to me and I hate playing them. The only new pig is Zam Wessel, who's just an inferior Jar Jar. I mean, it's exactly the same in every way, but not being a Gungan and using his tongue is kinda ruining it for me. The final boss is pretty cool though, we're just suddenly in a brand new place fighting Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Once you defeat Obi-Wan, he drops some bricks on his friend's head, and here we see Qui-Gon die for real. Only on the pig side he dies. Well, with all that out of the way, we finish the Phantom Menace. Clearly they had plans to spread these stories out a lot more, but after this chapter, Attack of the Clones only has 1, and Revenge of the Sith got a half. Yeah, we'll explain all that in a second, but first, we have Rise of the Clones. Everything's going well, and Anakin is in love. He's all grown up now, sporting a lightsaber of his own. I genuinely like this sort of levels. It's sort of a spiritual successor to the Cloud City chapter from the first game. It's just fun that every platform can be destroyed, causing massive damage just by pushing one over. Halfway through, one of my favorite Star Wars characters appears, Mace Windu, who has a purple version of the boomerang blade. And the Jedi younglings are the blues here. That means Anakin canonically kills Jim in this game, and is therefore my new favorite character. The final boss is Zam Wessel in a high-speed chase, which is really fun. At this rate though, I don't see how the entirety of Attack of the Clones is going to be covered. This is the first act. Well, leave it to the pigs to get the clones in here. We're on the stormy water world with Jango Fett. Well, yes, that does mean more water. There's wind effects here that let you go super far, it's awesome. There's even one going backwards to make use of this new mechanic. I also really love these levels too. They only add 1 pig, Boba Fett, who has 2 rockets instead of 1. We fight Obi-Wan at the end, or I guess my ship did most of the work actually, knocking Obi-Wan into the water. I almost forgot, we meet the clones here too, and they pretend to be good by wearing fake bird beaks. It'll be such a cool reveal later on when they take those off. The final chapter is titled Revenge of the Pork, making it sound like it encompasses the entirety of the final movie, but check out the intro cutscene. Obi-Wan is still wet, and if I remember correctly, this is the final act of Attack of the Clones. I guess that was the last happy ending for the good guys, huh? We start out with Anakin as Jango shoots missiles at us, typically killing himself in the process. These levels are pretty good, I'd say. I like the additions. Like this mustache pig robot. It's so weird but really funny, and it fires a big laser at you to help beat the levels. Kit Fisto is in a couple levels, who's just an upgrade to Yoda Bird, slicing through blocks rather than bouncing off of them. At the final fight, we get to take down Count Dooku while he throws little rocks at us. And now, on the pork side, it's time to cram all the events of the final movie into 16 levels. We open with Anakin killing Dooku while Grievous escapes, which I don't think happened in the movie, but we need to be able to play as the guy. He gets a lightsaber upgrade, nothing too special, but I still love you. Mace Windu comes to save the day and gets killed. Anakin is now fully edgy and gets the ultimate force powers. Just getting a bunch of levels to mess around with the most OP ability in the game is really fun. And then there's also this random clone they force you to play as too. Who cares about that guy? The bird beaks are removed, the dark side is winning, and we take down Obi-Wan with our entire piggy team in one last showdown. It's weird to make it seem like Anakin wins here. Obi-Wan clearly had the high ground. Even the ending cutscene shows Anakin getting burned. 2 little eggs are inside the ship with Padme, which is a cute touch, and at the end, Darth Vader is born. That was very rushed. So much more happened in that movie, but what can you do? That's a very cool finale. Wait a minute, what's Rebels? So yeah, despite rushing to finish up the story of the movies, apparently they had time to make a new chapter with new characters and abilities, all to promote the new animated show, Star Wars Rebels. Either you know it or you don't. The level story only covers the first episode anyways. Our first character is Ezra, who gets that mustache pig laser we saw earlier as an ability. In fact, all the rebels are known for their insane abilities. Sabine can place bombs wherever she wants, Hera can place a turret that kills any pigs in its line of sight, and the other ones are so powerful they're premium only. Moving to the pigs, Vizago gets 3 bombs to place anywhere he wants, the ATDP pilot gets Ezra's laser, which once again proves just how powerful it is, and Agent Kals gets an army of stormtroopers to send out alongside him. And just like that, we finish the game. But are we done? No, of course not. The game featured a new mode essentially, Master Your Destiny. In each level you have a certain amount of eggs you can use, but you can bring in any character you own. The puzzle is no longer about utilizing the given birds, it's about going through your inventory and finding which characters are best suited for the situation. I think that's a very cool idea and something incredible for Angry Birds to try, but think about it this way. You weren't really allowed to choose whatever character you want. You can only choose characters you have. And furthermore, you only have a limited quantity of each, so you could potentially waste your characters if you fail. With this in mind, it discourages experimentation or ingenuity, and instead encourages you to just buy the OP characters like Darth Vader to wipe out each level with ease. It's stupid, and so easily fixable. If you lose a level, give us back the characters we tried. Don't discourage creativity, allow us to try something to see if it works. Let us have fun. That's all it would take for me to like these levels, but instead I'm forced to waste my precious stock of OP birds and pigs in the hopes of beating each level. Such wasted potential. The final thing to cover is the rewards chapter, which for some reason all take place underwater. You call that a reward? They're fun bonuses just for playing with the characters you love, so I can't complain too much. Except I will. The hardest characters to get for this are the premium ones because you need to get big scores with those characters to get these exclusive levels. And the only way to get a ton of all these guys would be with microtransactions. There's almost no way around it. You could buy their telepods to make you feel any better. I've ranted a bit through every section, but for our final wrap up, let me tell you how I really feel. Did you notice a big difference between this game and the first one? Well, a lot is different, that's true, but I mean with the levels themselves. Oh, they're way more BS, that's definitely true, but still not what I'm getting at. There are space levels in the first big chapter, and never again. I truly didn't notice that until today, but playing them all back to back, they removed half the point of the game. Now, don't get me wrong, I didn't like the space levels we got, but I thought this was a sequel. I thought this was expanding on what Angry Birds Star Wars was supposed to be. I suppose the positive way to look at this would be to appreciate all the new environment types. Star Wars has a ton of varied worlds, and we got water levels, lava levels, storm levels, sky levels, and even some space levels. Each chapter has a ton of new gimmicks unlike any slingshot game we've seen before. And the characters, man. These abilities are downright crazy. Comparing the normal birds from the first game to these Star Wars characters with guns is truly quite the contrast. But as I always say, and I've got to say it again, Angry Birds is best in its simplest form. I don't want 60 characters with different abilities more crazy than the last. I don't want levels so huge I can't reach out the pigs on screen. Angry Birds Star Wars was a happy mix of bigger concepts with somewhat simplified level designs. Those got big at times too, but not nearly at the same scale. Angry Birds Star Wars 2 takes Angry Birds too far, monetizes the characters you play as, rushes its ending, and is simply too much for me to call it a fun experience. It ain't a bad game, but in my opinion, it's a B tier. I know people really love the game, and I would love to hear your arguments for why you think it might deserve a higher placement. Or if you dislike the game, let me know too. It's certainly a unique game, I won't argue with that. Thank you for watching this big Star Wars event. I plan to post it on May the 4th, which wasn't even on purpose at first, but is a very fun coincidence. I know I've mentioned the Stinky Steve plush a bunch already, but please consider getting one, especially if you want to see more Angry Birds videos from me. Thank you. Now it's time to slaughter some Jedi younglings once more. If you like to be slaughtered, then please consider becoming a member of the channel today. Thank you Patrick Firesean, Keep, Gall Guy, Jeff the Legend, Cheaper Yang, Test Monkey, Callum Ford, Perska Banana Checky, Mr. Odell, Timor Kuranov, Aaron the Ghoul, Freakish Smile, Ceramic Tiger, Geminot, Lewis, Omegon, Jonathan Biscoff, Lavatane, Green Man Yap, McCrazy, Bright Streak, OK, Mirai, Dante, Skibbity, and I don't know how you want your name pronounced, but I'm gonna go with MGR Damadan. Let me know how it should be pronounced. If we continue this series, next time would be Angry Birds Go, unless I'm somehow forgetting another entry. I'd love to play Go again, what a fun game. I'll see you then, goodbye.